This is Patrick Star, SpongeBob's best friend. We see him eating absurd amounts of food that could solve world hunger easily. Somehow managing to buy sweets, and that time he even had the luxury of wasting a few dollars when he buys the toilet plunger from Mr. Krabs at his garage sale.
$5.
I've only got 7.
Deal.
Within all the questions about Patrick's questionable lifestyle and his lack of brain cells, there is one big doubt. And that's, how does he have money if he doesn't work?
Yeah, would you please?
We need to find where the funds for his expenses come from and solve this mystery that doesn't let me rest at night. We need to analyze his economic status based on his assets, which of course are practically none. Well, at least he doesn't live in rock bottom, which is like the scariest hood in Bikini Bottom. He lives under a rock in the same neighborhood with SpongeBob and Squidward. Clearly not the richest house in the suburbs, since well, it is just a rock, so I guess it doesn't count as an asset. In one of the first episodes of the show, when in a tragic event the pineapple where SpongeBob lives is consumed by nematodes.
Hey SpongeBob, your house is gone!
So Patrick, being his bro, he tries to help his friend rebuild his house, because Minecraft told all of us that building a house is not a big deal. Plus, he says he built his own.
All by myself.
Although taking into consideration it is just a rock, since he could transport it from one place to another, which honestly is more reliable than living under a bridge. So that's a point for Patrick. That tells us that he didn't pay a single dollar for the house. In the same episode, he also mentions that his parents kicked him out and he has never returned since. That means that Patrick is invading the land since it doesn't belong to him. If we take a look inside of his crib, we'll see that it's not really a deluxe suite. It isn't very big, and we are going to be left quite confused, since he seems to live like a meth addict, but as the episodes go on, he seems to be a talented interior designer that went from playing Minecraft to The Sims, I guess. At first occasions we can see how the interior of his house is, well, completely empty. Later in the first season, we can see a brief scene from the episode 13 where his space is still quite limited, but he added an armchair as well as television and a small lamp, a recursive decoration that takes advantage of the limitations. Although this is contradicted later in the episode I'm with Stupid, when Patrick's parents write in a letter announcing that they're about to visit him. Here we can see that the interior of the house is empty again, although it is more spacious. So maybe he learned to dig sand. Curiously, it's Patrick himself who's molding his own furniture, making his own fridge, a wider armchair, his television, even a mirror that again Minecraft told us that it is in fact made of sand. In future appearances inside Patrick's house, it looks different again, in some dominating arts of placement based on a solid and well applied Feng Shui. But I will stop explaining all the different interior designs before I start liking winners. Leaving aside all the inconsistency, what's important here is that we see that Patrick's belongings never exceed the basic need, and the most expensive thing he probably has is his TV. So it is quite evident that our boy is pretty much broke. Or at least he lives that way, belonging to the lower class. Oh no, bro is one of us. Which he constantly depends on his friend SpongeBob, since if we pay attention, most of the time Patrick appears making some expenditure, he's hanging out with his bestie, who is also his wallet, implying that Bob takes charge of managing his friend's expenses. Patrick is wise enough to know that if a friend doesn't give you value, you have to cut him off. That's why he asks for money all the time and uses SpongeBob's house as if it were his own home, because that's what true friends do. We have an episode in which SpongeBob is unfairly fired from the Krusty Krab so that Mr. Krabs can save a few cents. From here, Bob tells Patrick that if he doesn't have money to buy his food, then Patrick won't be able to eat, leaving it clear that Patrick is totally dependent on Bob's salary. Star tries to cheer him up by showing him the beauty of being unemployed. He shows SpongeBob how he can survive without earning a cent. So the next day our fatty friend shows him some untapped homeless type schemes to make some sense. One of those being to anger Squidward in his garden, so he ends up throwing food in their faces to get rid of them.
Get off my
basically getting food for free. What a hustlers! The next entrepreneurial endeavor is to take SpongeBob to Sandy's place so they can have lunch with her. Although she gives them radioactive food, but hey, that's why they say never look a gift horse in the mouth. Here it is made more than clear that Patrick not only uses Bob to be able to get some food, but also tends to do the same with the other characters. I'm telling you, all of you are underestimating his intelligence. Okay, this doesn't mean that despite his stupidity, he is incapable of laboring for short periods of time, and as long as he makes an effort, he seems to achieve what he wants without so many difficulties. A clear example is the time SpongeBob was competing in the fry cook games. Patrick wanted to play there, but SpongeBob tells him he needs to be a fry cook. And since Patrick has a very controversial opinion, he says that flipping burgers is easy, and after flaming each other,
Yellow, pink,
he's motivated to finally get a job. Who would have thought that verbal abuse was the solution for his laziness? Going so far as becoming an absolute unit of a giga chat. He has also collaborated with Mr. Krabs at the restaurant, being considered in more than one occasion when they need an extra hand or even replacing Bob himself. Although sometimes the result is not the best, but what matters is the attitude. This seems to indicate that from time to time he does manage to earn a few cents with small jobs spaced out, when the opportunity knocks the door, or when his bestie cannot fulfill some of his wins. For example, in the episode Pat No Pay, Patrick breaks into the establishment with a serious problem. He asked for more than 50 Krabby Patties for himself, and after he finished devouring all that food, the star didn't have any money to pay, so he had to pay with slaving physical labor such as mopping or throwing the garbage. In one more recent episode, Patrick is also seen trying to finesse some free ice cream at the Goofy Goober. Getting a free sample for each flavor, he gets rightfully kicked out, but he finds out that Goofy Goober's employees get to eat all the ice cream they want on that job, so he becomes a Goofy newbie. That sounds so silly. We do have to say that things ended up pretty bad for the Goofy Goobers and Mr. Krabs. But hey, at least he was hired. This shows us two things. He can get a job, but obviously he doesn't have a permanent job, and the why of his precarious situation. If we go full psychologist mode and we analyze his entire backstory and his surroundings, we find a poor, obese and unfortunate creature, a starfish whose parents kicked out of the house a few years ago and now lives under a simple rock with furniture made for himself and constantly needs the support of his friends to be able to survive. Wow, Patrick is a meth addict. But, hold on. Something that really needs to be mentioned is a Reddit theory that tells us that Patrick doesn't need to pay for any service because he is royalty. Whoa, oh, that's a plot twist. Since in an episode of the 4th season, Rule of Thumb, Patrick's family tree is revealed to us in detail. And here we not only learn that he is related with Gary, which is a bit crazy, but he is a descendant of former Bikini Bottom kings, and although Gary ends up being the rightful heir to the crown, by the end of the episode, he's never mentioned as a king again. Patrick resigned from this position because with a great responsibility comes a great power or whatever. So if this is correct, the next one on the list to govern would be Patrick's father. At least if we base ourselves on this important and reliable document. This turns Patrick in the sweet, cute prince of Bikini Bottom. And if the royalty under the sea resembles mainland a little,
I like it here. People are very friendly.
then Patrick Star wouldn't be one of us. He will have all his expenses covered due to his ties to the royal family. Acting silly and destroying everything he touches has nothing to do with him being a trust fund baby that satisfied all his cravings. Another theory says that since Patrick has a license to fish, whoa, that's crazy. That would be a license to murder certain people, that means fish. Many say he provides meat to the Sean bucket or that the Krabby Patties come from there. But due to his evident poverty and that he is very stupid, I doubt he gets his bread that way. So I don't think this theory has much truth. He's just living that homeless lifestyle, rarely getting some money on his own in the few jobs that he has managed to obtain, but that it always ends up in almost domestic terrorism. That's why usually nobody wants to hire him. Sandy and Squidward sometimes may have ended up paying for some things. His parents may help him with some belongings, but they are not in charge of looking after him. so all these expenses are mostly covered by SpongeBob. But if Mr. Krabs barely pays in any money, why is SpongeBob rich? How much does he actually make? If you want to rest this night and find out those answers, check out this video. Thanks for watching.